this is Animat, and welcome back to the Muppet Vlog. Now, this time we're going to be looking into the 21st episode of Season 5 of The Muppet Show, which features the one and only Johnny Cash. Now, if you are watching this, then chances are you probably do know who Johnny Cash is. I mean, we are talking about one of the most influential and best-selling music artists of all time, where he managed to sell over 90 million records worldwide throughout his lifetime. And this man actually did cover numerous of genres, especially in country, where he is considered a legend in that field. But he also did cover rock and roll, rockabilly, blues, folk, and gospel. On top of that, including winning numerous of awards, like dozens and dozens of awards, like Grammys and Country Music Awards and all that kind of stuff. He was also the man who wrote many legendary songs, including I Walk the Line, Folsom Prison Blues, Ring of Fire, Get Rhythm, Men in Black, and so much more. And when we get into the episode that Johnny Cash appeared in The Muppet Show, I was honestly not expecting a little bit too much. I've probably stated this before in a previous episode of the Muppet Vlogs, but I'm not necessarily too big on country. I'm not saying that I hate Johnny Cash. There are some songs that I do enjoy from him. It's just country music is not necessarily my cup of tea in terms of music. But the way that they executed this episode, I was honestly really surprised that it was very well done. Especially in the story, they actually pulled it off extremely well. Because here's the thing. What was going on is that Kermit decided to let this radio show to come in and let their music play while Johnny Cash is also on set. But what ends up happening is that the host of the entire show, which is Big Tiny Tall Saddle, he was really a tough guy, and he's pretty much stealing the entire show, make the Muppet Show his entire thing. And throughout the entire time, Kermit is pretty much struggling to try to fight off against Big Tiny Tall Saddle to go and reclaim the Muppet Show. So often you would get this clash between this random country thing and also the regular Muppet Show stuff. And especially one of the best examples of that is when you would end up getting a regular Fozzie Bear bit, but then he would be intertwined with Big Tiny Tall's nephew, which is Wally Whoopie. And they would end up getting kind of this duet comedy bit together where Wally Whoopie is just mostly poking fun at Fozzie Bear's expense and the fact that he is a bear. And other than that, you do get a lot of country songs, and especially coming from Johnny Cash as well, where you got some songs like The Martins and the Coys, which honestly I was really surprised to hear, because the only time I've ever heard about The Martins and the Coys was one of the Disney package films, either from Make My Music or Melody Time, or one of those. And then there is another one where Johnny Cash would come in singing Riders in the Sky, which you end up also getting Gonzo and his chickens just riding a bunch of cows, and then suddenly they return just wearing white sheets, showing now they're ghost cowboys riding on cows, which is a pretty cute right there. And then you also got New Zealand and the Gills Brothers singing Goodnight Sardine, which is probably the only non-country song that's in this. That's more like one of those old-style ragtime songs. And then afterwards, Johnny Cash came in, and this is probably my favorite bit in the episode, where Johnny Cash would be with Rolf, and they would all sing this song called Dirty Old Egg-Sucking Dog. And I think what really makes this episode great is mostly Rolf's reaction throughout the whole thing, because even though this is a soft country song, the tone is a bit soft, even the way that Johnny Cash is singing it is a little bit like a lullaby. It's mostly about this bad dog who would often steal chickens, and he would steal the eggs as well in a chicken coop. And the farmer there, he was just so pissed off to the point that like he would threaten the dog, like, next time you go catch my chickens and my eggs, I'm gonna shoot you down. You know, it's like, it's a heavy-handed song, and like you can argue it is a bit mean-spirited, but like just the tone of how everything is calm, and especially with Rolf's reactions, you know, it actually does make a really nice Muppet bit right there. That was a lot of fun, and probably the best moment with Johnny Cash in there. And then there is the little bit, like I said, the one with Wally, Whoopi, and Fozzie Bear. And then you get the grand finale, which is Johnny Cash, and you got like the country band singing along with Miss Piggy, Orange Blossom Special and Jackson. And you know, it's more like of your country-oriented style song, but well, yeah, it's more like, before I continue, yeah, it is more your country-oriented song, and everything is all themed to country, which is another thing that I want to mention. It's mostly in terms of the setting. That's actually pretty interesting, because what makes this episode rather unique is that they don't change sets. Everything still stays the same, where you're kind of like in this little shack with a whole bunch of hay, and like a bunch of country singers all around, and like you get a few flags here and there, and like they keep it as that throughout the whole time, which I guess they want to keep it to the aesthetics more into country, and I do understand that, because in the previous episodes, like, they don't necessarily change much of the sets themselves. Like a few episodes, they would go into a completely different area, or they would really make it just entirely country themed. And there is one thing, however, that I do want to criticize about this episode, and honestly, it does make me feel a little bit uncomfortable, is mostly regarding in the set. There's actually, like, on one side, well, in both sides you see two different flags. One is the American flag, but then you've got the other one, which remains there the whole time, which is the Confederate flag. Now, I do understand about the historical significance about the Confederate flag. It's just that in recent years, I think the best way to put it is just that the Confederate flag is pretty much the American equivalent of the swastika. Normally, when people use it nowadays, it would be more as a symbol of hatred and white supremacy. So that's pretty much why it's a little bit awkward seeing that throughout the entire episode of The Muppet Show. Just, you know, like, it's just standing there, no one mentions anything. It's just, it does make it a little bit weird. But other than that, if I do go back a little bit into the aspects of the story, you know, what I really do like about it is that you do see a lot of character development coming from Kermit onto this, where, like, you really do see, like, when he would be generous to the point of, like, you know, giving other people a chance to come in and, like, you know, set up their own little show while the Muppet Show is going on. But then, like, you would see where he would be at his tipping point, like, where Kermit would stand in order to go and defend the show. And probably, you'll see Kermit's most noble moment on the series, where, like, he pretty much is at his breaking point, and he decided to ultimately go out and try to defend Fozzie Bear for the sake of keeping his show alive, you know, to make sure that it's his show and it's not, like, completely dominated by some Western tough guy. So, yeah, like, you do definitely get some great development from Kermit, but it's also interesting seeing the other characters as well, like Big Tiny Tall Sadie, Big Tiny Tall Saddle, where he's mostly trying to be the, like, kind of this show business man, but also a tough guy at the same time. He's more like your typical douchebag entertainer, where, like, when he's on stage, he's an entirely different person, but when you know him in real life, like, he's just absolutely horrible. Like, you see, like, an absolute two-face. That's the best way to put it. And, you know, it is really interesting to see this giant clash coming together, and that's pretty much why you do get this interesting feel in terms of this entire episode, where, like, it does have a really strong narrative. It knows where it's going. And even the inclusion of Johnny Cash, where the theme is centered around, like, what Johnny Cash is all about, which is country. And even his involvement in there, he does contribute a bit onto the story itself. It's not the kind of episode where he's just there as the special guest star to just sing songs. Like, he does help out a little bit in terms of the story and like mostly like contributing to what's going on with the whole situation of having the radio show on board. So I would have to say that overall, even though I'm not a person that is interested in country, this is actually a really good and really well-made episode. This is definitely one of the episodes where the story is definitely at its possibly strongest in its season. It definitely is fascinating to see this big clash between the regular Muppet Show and then this new radio show that came in and intervened and try to pretty much take over the Muppet Show, and especially where you would get a lot of interesting character development, especially coming from Kermit and maybe a few others as well, which at the same time does bring in some good comedy. And especially you also have Johnny Cash, which is who pretty much did a really good contribution to this, not only singing great songs, but, you know, just adding into the episode as well. So I would say that this is definitely one of those episodes in this season that is worth watching, but I would say that this is especially a must-watch to anyone who is a Johnny Cash fan, who is a country fan, and especially for people who really enjoyed Muppet Show episodes like the Roy Rogers and Dale Evans one. Like, this one would definitely be right up your alley. But anyways, that is pretty much it for this episode, so I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see if we can go outside of the country theme that the Muppets are still capable of bringing out a great story that's going on backstage as well as this one. But we will only know until next time, so see you later, dudes!